everybody, and welcome back to some more Cities Skylines. We're back with the brand new Green Cities DLC, which comes out this Thursday, October 19th. The guys over at Paradox were nice enough to send me a free copy of the DLC a couple of days early to share with you guys. It's an all-new DLC that adds a bunch of green energy stuff, like a bunch of eco-friendly houses, electric cars, renewable energy resources, recycling, all that kind of stuff. And so, without further ado, I figured that we would jump in with a new series and a new game. And instead of going in with a standard map, I thought this time around we'd mix things up just a little bit and go in with a scenario. And I quite like the look of the green power scenario. It says it's time to put your city's carbon footprint in check. With this scenario, you must build a city from scratch and make its carbon footprint as small as possible. The win conditions for the scenario are to have a population of over 50,000, have electricity production above 500 megawatts, and to have 100% of electricity production be from renewable sources. And then over here on the right, we have our losing conditions. We lose if we have less than one money. So it's essentially if we go bankrupt, we lose. We lose if 100% of our electricity production is from polluting sources. And so, for example, if we were to start this new world here and just right away put down a coal generator as our first and primary source of power, we would just instantly lose, because at that point, 100% of our electricity would be coming from polluting sources. And so we do have to put down a couple of wind turbines and then a coal generator if we want to go with some polluting sources. And then finally, the hardest one is to have an average ground pollution below 15%. So if it goes over 15%, we will lose the game. And this one is definitely the hardest of the losing conditions, because it's fairly easy not to go bankrupt, and it's also fairly easy to make sure that we have at least one or two windmills kind of around and kicking throughout the course of the game. But especially in the early game, trying to make sure that our ground pollution stays below 15% is pretty tricky, especially when your city starts to demand some early game industry, and also you want to start putting away garbage into landfill sites. The ground pollution can get quite high quite quickly, but the new DLC does add a couple of things and a couple of buildings that we can put down to make it a little bit easier to keep that pollution level below 15%. And so without further ado, we will jump right into this and start on this brand new city. So we start with a little story message. It says, with the recent advancements in energy production, using only renewable energy sources is not only viable, but also the only environmentally conscious choice. Make a city that runs only with green power and prove the naysayers wrong. All right, so we'll close that. I don't need all these tool tips. I've played this game once or twice before. So this is the city that we start with. I quite like the look of it. We've got a nice bit of flat area over here to the right. We've got a nice mountainous area over here to the left, which is quite nice for some early game wind power potentially. And then over here, it looks like we have quite a bit of fertile land going all the way around kind of this, the start of this cliff face. It does kind of get a bit mountainous over there in the top right. But I guess we kind of start the same way that we always do, and that is by putting down this one road. Every time we start this series, I always complain about it, but I still think it's really weird that they don't let you put down anything but the two-lane road to start with. So you always have to put that down and then break it before you can place anything else in the game. But we'll do that, and essentially here, the start is going to be pretty similar to what you've seen before. We have to make sure we've got enough space for our residents to move in. We've got to make sure we don't spend too much money on roads in the early game, because of course we do want to save a little bit of that money to make sure that we have water and to make sure that we have electricity. Also, whilst I build this little like early road system here, I should mention that I am playing with, oh gosh, that looks horrible. I am playing with two mods installed. I have the auto bulldoze mod, so that if any building requires bulldozing, it will be bulldozed automatically. We don't have to go through and kind of micromanage all of our bulldozing. I still don't love this, but I'm going to leave it like that for now, just to get the city up and running here. So I'm going to have like a little road that just extends out like that, and then I think we'll also have like a road that extends out over here. We'll put our early game kind of industrial sector over on the right there. I'm not too worried about planning the layout of the city just yet. I kind of just want to get some stuff up and running and working, and hopefully that's not too far away from where all of our stuff's going to be. I do quite like having a river in the early game, especially, I think they just look nice in the cities for the most part, but I also quite like that it makes it very easy to place down your early game water supplies, which I have instantly done incorrectly because I do not want to put my water intake over there. I want to put my water output over there and then have my water intake over on the other side so that all the fresh water gets sucked up and then all of the dirty sewage polluted water gets dumped out over on this side, and then we can simply go ahead and hook both of those up like so. Again, we should have more than enough money to get this over to our kind of main line over here. And again, as we go forward in the series, I will make all of this look, hopefully, a little bit less kind of random. I am a big fan of putting my water pipes underneath my roads like this, so I'm not a huge fan of having like this long diagonal line of piping here, but again, we can't really be too picky in the early game, so let's just quickly go ahead and hook up our sewage, and then let's also go ahead and hook up our water as well. I guess for now we can do it like that. That's an awful lot of money to spend on pylons, but that is fine. Let's throw down a little bit of residential like so. And like so, we'll put a little bit of commercial, I guess, between it like that. And then we'll throw a tiny bit of industrial over here. Now, again, we do want to kind of keep an eye on how much industrial we put down because I'll speed things up because I did tinker around with this a little bit before I started recording here, and the amount of ground pollution does get pretty high pretty quick. We can see all of our goals and objectives over here in the bottom left. We can click the little like padlock icon, and you can see right now all of our energy is being produced from renewable resources, so check. Going forward, I don't know if that's going to remain true, but we do again want to make sure that we keep at least one wind turbine up and running to make sure that we never have 100% of our power coming from non-renewable resources. And then let's go ahead and I guess throw down a bit more in the way of buildings as well over there. Hopefully that'll be fine, because already if we look over here, we'll probably see this jump up to 1% pretty soon, just because we have these few industrial buildings. Also, let's do something like that. This looks hideous, by the way. I'm aware of how bad all of this looks at the start here, but I kind of just want to get things to a point where they are at least relatively stable. So we'll extend this out just a little bit. We'll probably keep the main road here throughout the course of the city, but we'll just change up the way it looks kind of adjacent to the road. So we'll hook all that up like that. And then how are we doing? I kind of want to keep an eye on this. I'm going to be kind of obsessively checking on the ground pollution because we do lose as soon as that ground pollution gets just a little bit too high. And especially in the early game, they do tend to want quite a bit in the way of industry, and getting it all set up can be quite hard. Getting it set up without getting over 15% can be quite tricky. Now, I'm not 100% certain. I think, if I'm not mistaken, that farming, if we get to specializations, once we can unlock districts and then specialize a district to farming, I think that the farming specialization doesn't pollute, and so once we get there, I might make a bridge over to the other side of our city here, and then set up kind of like a big old farming district that kind of wraps around the side of this this mountain range, and try and have that be our key and maybe only source of industry, at least until we get further in the game, and we can of course unlock the office buildings. I'm not quite sure if you could realistically sustain an entire city of just farming. I guess so. There are probably quite a lot of cities that currently sustain based on their agricultural exports, but I am no expert. This is not great. However, we can bump up our electrical budget here just a little bit. Also, I should mention that I am playing with the day-night cycle turned off, despite the fact that we have After Dark installed. I'm just not a huge fan of the day-night cycle constantly flowing through. Occasionally I might switch it up and turn it on just to see how our city looks in the evening, but for the most part I'm going to play without it on. And also along the same route, we are playing with natural disasters turned on, but the frequency has been turned down, so they're not going to be happening like every other day. They should be pretty rare, but they are something that we do have to kind of think about and also deal with as time goes on here. So we are making money. We've become a little hamlet, so we've unlocked taxes, loans, garbage, healthcare, education, and then the key thing that we've unlocked here is the recycling center. Also, I believe that the community school is also a new feature added with the Green Cities DLC. So our current, let's have a look here, goals. Yeah, we're currently at 3% land pollution, so it is getting up there slowly but surely. If we put down a landfill site, it's kind of a surefire way to increase that pollution. And so instead, we will go ahead and throw down a recycling center that I think for now, I can probably get away with putting down right about there. Now, I'm not quite sure how realistic this is, because I believe having this down does take care of pretty much all of the garbage in the city, so much like a landfill would, it takes care of all of the garbage needs. Given that not everything is recyclable, I'm not quite sure what they do with the excess waste that doesn't cause any pollution. Maybe we ship it out to another city so they have to deal with it. I'm not quite sure, but I like it because it keeps our ground pollution nice and low. So, now that we have kind of gotten to this early stage, look at that 4%. I'm telling you, it creeps up on you so much. I keep checking it, but we do really have to be careful here. How many people do we need before we can unlock districts? We need 900. I'm also not quite sure if you unlock specializations right away, or if we have to wait a little while after and try and get to maybe like 1,400 people before we can upgrade that. I'm not too sure. So, now we have to start thinking a little bit about how I want to kind of expand out off this road here. Now, I'm usually not a huge fan of going with kind of the grid style city layout, and so what I think we will do is, I'm thinking that we'll go with like quite a big circle here. I kind of don't want to do it on this side because it goes up the mountain, and I know it's not a mountain, it's like a hill here, it's not very mountainous, but you know what, yeah, sure, let me try this. If we go from here, we go out, and we go around, we might be able to get quite a nice, large semicircle going here, and again, hopefully, it's even. It never is. Whenever I build these, they never end up being symmetrical. I'm so bad at figuring out how to make all of this stuff symmetrical, so I think a better way of doing this would be to find what looks to be the center and then to kind of work around that. It does cost a little bit more than just building the whole thing outright, but I think it ends up being a little bit more accurate than trying to just kind of eyeball it. And so I think that does end up looking a little bit more symmetrical, a little bit more like an actual semicircle than it would otherwise. So we'll bulldoze all that, and then inside of here, I think I will go with kind of a grid pattern, but we'll try and mix it up a little bit. So let's see here. What I'll do, you know what, I might as well keep this in now that I've already kind of demolished the buildings to get there. Also, we do want to make sure that we throw those pylons back down so we can actually get power to our people, because otherwise they're going to leave very, very quickly. And then what we'll do is we'll just kind of have a couple of somewhat, I really don't like this. I don't like when it snaps but then slightly bends. I don't know if you can quite see that. It just ever so slightly bends there and the angle changes just a little bit. It really bugs me sometimes, but I think that's pretty straight there. So we'll have it like this, and then mostly just somewhat, I don't know, I like randomness, but then I'm also a big fan of symmetry, so I kind of try and keep these looking quite good. So, I mean, what if we do this? What if we have that connect there, and then maybe have something like this and that? Sure, I think that looks alright. And then, again, in the name of symmetry, once we get some money, because right now we don't have enough, but I guess we could always go ahead and take out our first loan, which I think we pretty much have to do, given how expensive things are and how much we need to build right now. So we'll expand out a little bit. We'll throw down a couple of residential zones. Let's not forget that we do, of course, have to put in some pipes so that people can actually get access to clean water. They should very quickly get access to energy, and so I'm not too bothered about putting down more pylons. We'll do something like that. I think that looks pretty good. And then, as I was about to do before we took out our loan, I think I'm going to make this pretty much symmetrical. Oh, I can't, even when you've got snapping turned off, you can't make it work on this side. It just doesn't happen. You can see, because of the fact that we've built on this hill, it looks very flat from the top, but when we come down, you can indeed see that it is quite steep. Yeah, we just can't make that happen, can we? I guess in that case, let me see here. I can do this one, most certainly, and then we can put in another line like that to make that a bit symmetrical, and then we can go from here to make that symmetry, and then we can go across like that. Yeah, there we go. I think that works. I think that works quite nicely. All right. So we are having issues with power. Let's throw down another windmill here. We could throw down No, we couldn't throw down a coal power plant. I was going to say we could throw down a coal power plant and just get rid of it later. But I think what I'd like to try and do with the city is just try and stick to only using renewable energy sources like the wind turbines and like the other wind turbines, the advanced wind turbines. At least in the early game, we could always move on and unlock some more stuff like the hydro power plant, the solar panel, and I think even the nuclear power plant might be classed as a renewable resource. I'm pretty sure it is. Maybe not renewable, but at least carbon neutral, like it doesn't release any pollution into the atmosphere. So we also need to spend flipping quite a bit of money on a clinic and also on getting ourselves an elementary school, which is going to take a little bit of time here because we do not have anywhere near the funds required. But you can see here at the bottom now what I was talking about. The demand for industrial does get pretty high. Now, we are already 5% in to our ground pollution, and so really, I don't want to add too much more in the way of industrial zoning, at least not until we unlock districting. So I think I'll add a little bit more there. That'll probably take us up to 6, maybe 7%. We could probably get away with putting a little bit more like over here as well, just to try and quench a little bit of that demand. And then we can also throw down, I guess, a bit more in the way of commercial as well. So we'll do that. We'll do this. And there are also a bunch of new specializations for residential and commercial buildings in general, which we'll see as soon as we unlock these districts here. And you can set all of your commercial districts to be like eco-friendly, so you end up with like organic foods and all that kind of stuff. And you can also set your houses to be self-sufficient, which end up throwing down these really interesting looking like grass buildings. They are just they're so green. They've got like a grass roof, they've got solar panels, they've got all kinds of stuff, and they end up being very self-sufficient, which is quite nice in terms of pollution. They do look a little bit odd, I'm not going to lie. So, have I made this? Yeah, you can definitely tell this is not symmetrical because, like, over here, we've got very little wasted space, whereas over on this side, we've got, like, a gargantuan amount of wasted space. It's not the most symmetrical or most ideal scenario in the world, and also, when you look at it from, like, a 90-degree flat angle, it does look a bit weird, but you know what? It's fine. We're going to be spending most of our time looking at it from this kind of bird's eye view here, and so that should be fine. Apparently, that did quench most of the demand for industrial areas. We're up to 6% on the landfill. We have got quite a bit of demand now for some more residential, and so I will go ahead and kind of bulldoze this and this. That should still, I think, provide power over there. Maybe. Is that not quite in the zone? Let me check here. No, it is. Yeah, it is. Cool. I think that's probably going to be enough. Maybe we'll throw down like a little bit more over here as well, like that. And then potentially even like a bit of commercial, like that. Yeah, I think that should be fine. I do like to keep all the areas around my intersections quite clear because otherwise cars start parking there. And when the cars start pulling in and out, it does get a little bit bad for traffic, which, of course, as always in City Skylines, is something that we do have to worry about. And speaking of traffic, one feature that was added in mass transit is, of course, the ability to turn off traffic lights, which I would very much like to do. So the way that you can do this, by the way, without having any mods installed is there are two ways. You can click on a road and then click over here on this icon that says toggle traffic routes view. But the easier way to do it is just to click on the little eye to show all of the info and then click on the traffic routes at the bottom there and then junctions, and then you can just turn off traffic lights as and where you please. I'm going to turn off pretty much all of my traffic lights on the main road here. Also, we are in desperate need of power. We'll fix that in just a second. And then what I quite like to do is just put stop signs that lead into the road so that all of the cars that are on the main road here can drive freely. But then if people want to get off of the side road and onto the main road, they've got to wait at the stop sign. I feel like it just makes traffic flow just a little bit better. I guess we'll find out if it does indeed work in this city. Also, what is going on with our power? We are producing 12 watts and need 18. That is exactly what is wrong. Let's try bumping that up to 150. Hopefully that will get us there, but we have also now become a worthy village, and so we don't need to worry about that because we just got a nice cash influx of about $20,000, which is quite nice indeed. We've unlocked our first buyable plot, which we probably won't buy for quite some time, but that's fine. Districting, policies, a second loan, district specializations, so we might even be able to get into some farming, service policies, emergency services, fire department, forestry specialization, agriculture specialization, that's one I'm after, and then self-sufficient buildings is one that I'm quite interested in, as well as organic and local produce, which is a new specialization for commercial buildings. So, let us see here. First things first, let's throw down another one of these wind turbines to try and keep up with the demand for electricity. Also, let's throw down a little bit more in the way of piping, because we did just allocate some new residential areas without putting down more pipes. Also, we'll just do something like this to kind of cover the outskirts here in the future. A little bit of a sloppy job there, especially like this. It doesn't really follow the road too much, but that is fine for the time being. So, I'm going to pause here real quick because I want to test something out. We don't have that much money, actually, so I don't know how easy it's going to be for us to build a bridge that crosses the river. It's going to cost us about 10,000. Now, we do have that second loan that does give us 50 or 60,000 even, and so we might take that into account in just a second here. What is our ground pollution looking like? 6%. That is fine. So first things first, let's throw down a district over our kind of residential and commercial areas. And what we'll do is we will allocate this to self-sufficient buildings and then also to that fresh organic produce. So we'll do this, and I do also quite like to have my districts be within the borders of the roads, and you can quite nicely do this because the districting tool does kind of snap to the roads. So let me quickly just kind of get rid of this and then also get rid of this, making sure that it just sticks. Actually, I do want to have it here because we've got more houses here, but we'll do that in a second. But then what you could do is just kind of snap to the road, and then if you go, I don't want a new district. I want the same district. It snaps to the road, and you can kind of just drag it around like this, and you end up with quite a nice, even district, which is quite nice because a lot of my districts in the past have always just looked like that, just like a complete mess, which I'm not a huge fan of. So we'll get rid of this, and then we'll just very quickly tidy this up along here like that, and then at some point we'll probably build out like a second half of this circle here, forming a full circle, and then maybe even put like a roundabout in the middle or something like that. But for now, you can see the difference. So what we'll do is we will go over to residential specializations and select the self-sufficient buildings, which will then apply to our Sunnyside Square here. We'll also go ahead and go over to commercial specializations, and we will select the organic and local produce and apply that as well. And instantly, if we press play, we should see most of our buildings here disappear. We are going to see a dip in population ever so slightly, but I'm pretty sure that these should reappear quite quickly. And like I mentioned earlier, they do look quite interesting. There's a lot more greenery around the building. There's a lot of trees. I've also seen a couple of buildings that have got like grass on the top. So hopefully we'll see one of those fairly shortly. And of course, all of the buildings change as well. We've got Fast and Nutritious. That's one of our new stores over here. We've got Eco Supermarket, the Eco Center. What else do we have? The Sunset Residence. I'm mostly looking for our new stores because they always have, always interesting in the end. It's always just like the eco version of whatever we had before. But there we go. All of our city is now, or well, part of our city here, part of our residential area is becoming eco-friendly. We are losing $471 a week right now, but hopefully this area should fill in quite quickly, at which point we should start to make all that money back. And whilst we're waiting for that to happen, let's go ahead and take out this loan for $60,000, quickly pause so we don't lose it all whilst we wait for people to move back in, and then let us see about setting up kind of a big old farming area. So I'm going to put, let me check here real quick with natural resources. Yeah, I'm going to put like a nice road, like a diagonal road, going through like that, so that I know to put all of my farming industry on the other side of the road there, and then we'll connect this up over the bridge here to our main city. Now, I kind of want this to connect up to the main road. So if we do that, and then we do something like this, maybe? Yeah, I think that could work out quite nicely. We do want to make sure that we don't forget about the electricity. Let's just do a quick one of these. Again, I know it doesn't look great. We'll fix it in the future. For now, I want to get this farming area set up because the demand for industry is quite high, and we are not at liberty to use up any more of our ground pollution. We're already up to 8% on the ground pollution as well, which is not fantastic. So I am just going to go ahead and set up a new district over here. Again, I would like if it was tied nicely to the road, so we'll just do something like that, and then above it is our new farming district, which for the time being I'm going to call farming. Actually, no, I'm going to call it eco farming district because we're a green city, not Crescent Square. I forget you have to click enter every time that you do that. There we go. Eco farming. That is our new industry area. And so if we do something along the lines of this, we should hopefully start to see that demand for industry fall down quite quickly. And also, before I forget, let's actually specialize in farming there. And if I'm not mistaken, I think that the farming or agricultural specialty doesn't actually cause any pollution. Now, I will pull up the pollution menu and kind of keep an eye on this for a little while here just to make sure that pollution is not an issue. And also, we do, of course, have to connect this up with water. I think, if I'm not mistaken as well, the agricultural industry does use a little bit more water than normal industry. Which is fine. We've got excess water for the time being, although we might have to put down some more water pumps or even invest in just putting more into the water budget in the future. But for now, look at this. We got some lovely cows. We got ourselves Amy's Baking Company. We've got ready sliced fruit, juice press, an animal farm, ready sliced fruit again. People love that ready sliced fruit. And then more of Amy's Baking Company. They're getting a flipping monopoly on the baking here. Flipping it. All right, so I think, again, that this is actually fine. Yeah, it looks like these are not producing any pollution, which is good, especially when you look over here at our normal industry, which is producing pretty much all of our ground pollution right now. So I think I am going to pretty much just get rid of this. That is going to cause quite a lot of jobs to go and make a few people unhappy. And we're probably also going to lose some population as well. But I really would like everybody over here. Now, the problem that we're going to face, or the first problem that we're going to face with having our industry so far away from our residents, is that I think a lot of the farming industry over here is going to start complaining about lack of workers, potentially. But we do, of course, have all of the new stuff that was added in the last mass transit DLC, and so we can, of course, start working on setting up some bus lines, maybe some tram lines, even if we wanted to setting up a ferry that takes people like just across the river. It wouldn't be the longest ferry ride in the world, but you never know. Maybe if we had some people living like down here in this flat area, we could set up a ferry line that goes from one end of the river all the way over to the other end to get them to the farming section. It could happen, we'll see. And we are now having a problem with burglary. All right, so let's go ahead and throw down our first police station. I think it is probably wise to put this down on the main road there, just to get as much coverage as is possible. And also, whilst we've got money, we should probably throw down a clinic, which I'll spread out a little bit and put like a bit. I'll put this like over here, like that. And then we'll also throw down an elementary school, which I guess can go down like there. Sure, why not? Cool. All right. These do all look very similar, don't they? They've all got these, like, maybe stone pathways or, like, pebble pathways. It's all very, like, yellowy orange, which is interesting. It does kind of add to this idea that we're, like, a farming, like, a city that relies on farming, because all of this over here is also, you know, grain. It's also all yellowy orange with wheat and whatnot. And so eventually our whole city's just going to be yellow from a bird's eye view. We're going to have all these eco-friendly houses. We're going to have all of these wheat farms going over here. It's going to be great. It is going to be fantastic. It looks like this is working out quite nicely over here, actually. I do really like the look of these farming buildings here. I never really specialized with industry. I always used to put just like normal stuff down and beeline the office buildings as soon as possible. But this stuff does look pretty good. It looks pretty good. I like it. So now that we've done that, we do have like a massive spike in the demand for residential, because we've got all of these farms and nobody to work on them. So let's throw down a huge new swath of residential areas. Again, I'll leave this clear over here. We'll fill this in like over here. I really am not a huge fan of these like little patchy bits of available land. I'm a much bigger fan of like these big solid blocks of area that you can just put down all in one go. But I guess if we get our brush tool out here, we can fill this in quite nicely. And then of course we do have that little splash of demand for commercial as well. And so, you know what, let me like little bit of commercial down around the outside like so. And yeah, we'll throw in like a bit in here as well, like this, just where we got a bit of space lying around like that. Again, these ones are going to be outside of the district for now, but that's fine. We don't need all of our buildings to be eco-friendly and self-sufficient just yet. We're also seeing somebody not have enough workers already, which is not fantastic. We have just expanded out though, and so hopefully they will get some more people into work fairly soon. And speaking of which, I might even just bump the tax up ever so slightly on industrial. You know what? I'll bump it up on everything to 10. And then I'm also going to bump it up on industry just a little bit more, because I would like to get some of that early game money in. I want to be able to expand and build quite rapidly. And I mean, look at these farmers. They can definitely afford it. Look at this. They got so much land, so many cows. They can afford to pay the extra tax. It's fine. Flipping A. Alright, ooh, what is this? I didn't even see what that happened there, but look at that. This is what I was talking about earlier with like the grass on the roof or whatever it is. I'm not quite sure what's going on in this building, but they decided to put down some plants on the roof of their building for whatever reason. They all look very modern as well. They've got these very modern house designs, like every single building in the area. It's crazy. But with that, guys, I think I will end the first episode of City Skylines Green Cities there. Our city's going on quite nicely. If we check our ground pollution right now, it's at 0%, so we have managed to pull it back down a little bit here. We need to make sure that we keep this up as we get closer to 50,000 population and also to 500 megawatts of energy, which I don't think should be too hard, especially when we unlock those more powerful renewable resources like solar and nuclear. But for now, guys, thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video and you want to see more of this eco-friendly green city, be sure to hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't done so already, and let me know in the comment section down below. The new DLC comes out on Thursday. Huge thanks to Paradox for sending me an early copy of it. I'll put a link to it down in the description if you would like to buy it yourself. I think it's coming out for £9.99 here in the UK and then $12.99 in the US, although I'm not 100% certain on that. Again, there'll be a link down below if you want to check it out. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.